What is brewing, everybody? I'm Bren,
I'm Kiki.
and welcome back to Books Over Beans.
It's been a while.
Today is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a very big deal. We're kind of a big deal today.
Yeah.
And
End of an era, kind of.
new beginnings, sweet endings, I guess.
Bittersweet. Yeah.
We are here to wrap up the final book of the ACOTAR series. So we are caught up and we are complete with A Court of Silver Flames, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah. I just feel like I was reaching for the last book, and I literally was like, I had like deja vu, and I was like, I feel like I was just reaching for ACOTAR.
I know.
And I actually met this wonderful woman in the book, and she asked me what my thoughts were about the series. And long story short, she bought ACOTAR book 1, and I'm so happy, and I hope she's loving it. But it's just like we've been, committed to this series since March. Like that's a long time.
Yeah. I mean, well, we're way past the 90-day mark. And I honestly I feel like it's gone so fast, but I also feel like we've been doing this for a long time too.
I agree.
Like, I feel like we've been doing this for a long time, but then
Yes.
this, I'm like, all of a sudden I'm like, it's over, but then at the same
Yeah.
time, I feel like it was yesterday, but also forever ago at the same time.
Yeah, because I feel like, throughout the series we kept saying like, after book 2 we were like, oh, we have so much of the series left. After book 3 we were like, oh, we still have a little bit of the series left. And then all of a sudden we finished the last book and we're like, oh, we have nothing left. Like this is it. And I know that Sarah J Maas is writing the next book in this series, but it's not coming out until 2025. So it's like we're breaking away from this series for, a while. And honestly, this is like kind of my first series that I committed to like that.
Yeah, this
other than
one,
when I was younger, but
this is definitely the most ambitious series I've ever been a part of. I mean, I was a big Twilight girl in high school, not college. I'm not. No, it was high school for me. And what's really funny is like how the fantasy world can just like it can just suck you back in for me. And I like this series in particular because it's well digested by a lot of different people, even if it's not your jam.
This was my first dive into fantasy ever.
Yeah.
And at first it was like hard to get used to. The first book, it was like really easing my way into it, but like now it's very different because I just started another book that's fiction, and I'm like, this is weird. I'm like, this is all real life stuff. It's not like
I know.
a little make believe. It's all very real.
I mean, and to that point, honestly, it does feel like every book is so much faster to read now. Also, like I blew through an Abby J book in like a day, and I'm like, is this gonna be my life now that I have built this reading stamina?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Like that's how I feel with this one that I just started. I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna finish this like tomorrow. And I'm like, I don't really want to be blowing through books like that because you want to enjoy them, but it's also like the pace that we've been reading and the quantity of pages that we've been reading in these books. It's like it makes other books like little.
I think that speaks to this series in particular, and Sarah J Maas's writing is that it does just pull you into this really diverse, lengthy, deep series she's created, and it's not her only one. I have family members that are reading this series who actually beat me to finishing it, and they started after me, like my mom and my sister moved right on to Throne of Glass.
She did?
She did. So she's through Throne of Glass. She said that it was hard to get into at first. Like not like hard to read, but like a little bit like even more slow building than we felt that ACOTAR's first book was.
Wow.
But then she's like, "Oh man, it gets good." So I'm like, get ready for even more of the whole building, and then packing the punch at the end. That seems to be her MO here.
Yeah.
So I told her I can't commit to that yet. That's a fall project for me.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. I actually, in the last book, I was like reading it on my Kindle. I was reading, I was being a hybrid reader. I read, some of it physical copy, some of it Kindle. But there was like a teaser for Throne of Glass at the end of the book.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like, gave it a little browse. So I was like just a little curious. I'm like,
Do you think you're going to want to do that?
I do.
Me too.
My thing is like something I really enjoyed that we did throughout these books is that we read books in between.
We
Because
were hesitant about that too.
we
So
were,
we've really
yes.
grown here.
But I don't think it made an impact on like
Mm-mm.
our commitment to ACOTAR, and
Mhm.
I do think it like breaks up a little bit because kind of going back to like enjoying books, you want them to last, right? It's like
Mhm.
hard. A really good book is hard for you to like let go.
Yeah.
And I think with a series, like that's important. And I
Yeah.
know that Throne of Glass is so long. There's like 12 books. But I do think I could do that if I did a book in between. Because
Yeah.
sometimes it's nice to break it up and like um just read other things, especially
Yeah.
outside of the genre.
That series in particular, so I guess this is kind of a book we're eyeing. That series in particular seems like there's a lot more moving parts and a lot more
Yes.
different point of views thrown into it too, where
Yeah.
I feel like it will feel like a different type of project to take on than this one. This one was
Yes.
like, it was very well connected. Like it
Yeah.
felt like kind of like like I imagine it in my head like a sphere, right? Like you turn it and it all kind of was the same thing.
Yeah.
Even with this last book, even though we had it with Nesta's point of view, it felt like it was still you still didn't feel like you left Feyre and Rhysand. You didn't feel
Right.
like you left their story. Like it was very much so felt like it was just taking place in the same movement as the other ones,
Yes.
where the other one seems like it might be mixed up a little bit more. But
And I think we talked about that in our last episode that we were hesitant to go into this book because we knew it was going to be from a different point of
Yep.
view. And that was before we really knew that it was going to be in third person. But I think that Sarah J Maas did a really great job at like blending it all together.
Yeah.
Especially in the end there when Feyre and Rhys were so present.
Mhm.
Amryn, yeah, a lot of moving parts, but like you said, it was in the same sphere, all came together.
Yeah.
All in like kind of the same rotation. It
Yeah.
wasn't you weren't like
You still felt like you were in their world
yes, you did.
that they
Yeah.
built together.
And I think honestly, like we were pretty meh about the third person in the beginning, but I
Yep.
think that kind of exactly what you just said, like it felt like they were still involved.
Mhm.
Maybe if it was from Nesta's point of view in the first person, maybe we wouldn't have felt that as
Yeah.
much because she's so like kind of closed off.
We did spend a lot of time with the other people that I do feel like now that we're critically talking about this a little bit,
Mhm.
that it seemed it was definitely intentional. And to that point, I actually hadn't considered that. You have me thinking here. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
like if it was just from her, yes, I would have loved to experience what she was going through her head, but it was able to explain the trauma piece a little bit more. And
Yeah.
like you look at Nesta whole picture and how that impacted other people that we've grown to come and love.
Right.
Really interesting. We are definitely also going to get into this book a lot more. I feel like we're like really ready to talk about it because
Yeah.
it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
But we have a couple of really exciting and just kind of like fun little things that I think we could jump into really quick that are still on the page of ACOTAR.
Yes.
But I want to really save the depth of what we want to talk about with Nesta because there's
I
a lot
agree.
here to talk about and we're excited to share it with you.
Yes.
You cool with that?
Yeah, I'm cool
All
with
right.
that.
We're ready. We're like, it's been a while. We're ready to
Yeah,
go.
and I think like, we before, we were in like having our own conversations kind of like, yeah, we didn't know how we felt about this one, but now as we're actually talking about it, there is so much to uncover in this book.
Agreed.
I think it was a big slow burn. That's maybe why it was, we felt a little bored with it at first, but now that everything's come to fruition, I feel like there's so much to go back and dive into.
Absolutely. And I think there's just there were a lot more parallels than I think we initially
Yeah.
gave it credit for. But with that being said, we didn't really get into spoilers here, so this is good.
Yeah, no spoilers.
We're gonna do a quick little chit chat about some things outside of
Yes.
Nesta's world, and then we're gonna jump right back in. So we have really exciting news and something that we, as we're critically talking about a book, which we
know.
don't normally
No, we
do,
don't
but this
normally
is
do.
important because it's different.
Yeah.
We're not literary critics here at Books Over Beans, so we have a goal. We have a mission. And then this has kind of evolved as we've continued to enjoy this, but we find it to be important to bridge the gap between the online book community, as you all know, is very present, growing, and loud in the
Yes.
best ways.
Yes.
We talk about, and we like to visit a lot of our local bookstores. And Keek, I'm going to give you the mic All right. I'm gonna stop talking, but I wanted to segue into the wonderful things that you have to share about this because it's a very
Yes.
exciting thing that we have coming up here.
Yeah. So we are super excited. We're partnering with Talking Leaves Books in Elmwood Village, Buffalo, New York.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of our local favorite bookshops, and we are on a mission to showcase the founding stories of local bookstores like Talking Leaves, and really engage with their owners, local authors they may have connections with, and really just bridge the gap, like Bianca, that Brenna mentioned, to connect our online and local communities of book lovers alike.
Mm-hmm. So stay tuned for what that entails. We did just post the announcement of this partnership
Yes,
today on our social
today it
media.
is fresh. It is
So
live.
it's something that's really buzzing within
Yeah.
us that we're excited about. So we wanted to
Yeah.
share it with you first and foremost. You heard it here first,
And we have a
folks.
lot of fun things planned with Talking Leaves this summer. So stay tuned for more to come and give them a follow on Instagram and visit the bookstore. It's
Yes,
so cute in
it is
there. You'll find
cute.
anything you need, any book you need, it's there. I can
Uh,
guarantee it.
while we're on this topic of partnership, Kiki, what is in your mug today?
Today, Creo's Coffee Brilliance Blend. My best friend Emma, she put me onto the Chobani creamers. I don't know why I was so hesitant to like get into those, but I got the hazelnut one. It is perfection. And
Mm.
then topped with cold foam and a little sugar. What about you, Brent?
So I also have Brilliance Blend in my mug. My cup, actually. Look at these cute little glass
Oh my
friends
god,
we have
yeah.
now.
I
I
love, like,
really
the
upgraded
cups.
my coffee cup.
These are the best things for summer.
They're so cute.
And I honestly love the texture. Like something about texture is like really important to me. Like there's
Mhm.
so much grip on these that it's like
Yeah.
it's not gonna slip because I simply like it's so much grip.
Did I bring one of these to Coach Soccer the other day and break it? Yes. Did I second guess my choice as soon as I was driving in the car with it? Yes. But we have survivors here that we are enjoying very much.
Yes.
Mine is topped with caramel. What is the brand?
Oh,
D-
House Mate,
isn't it like something like Delight? I don't know.
Coffee Delight, something.
It's like a shake the can and spray it like whipped cream.
Yes, it's a blue can.
Yeah, more to come on that. Sorry, it's not like they're gonna want to sponsor me right now. Anyway, I gotta get my marketing. Gotta get me. You gotta teach me the things. Brenna, come prepared next time. Yikes. Anyway, it's caramel. That's it.
It's good, is what it is. That's all we gotta know. It's
cold
good.
foam. We are just in the nature of wrapping this up in the best ways. So we came up with this idea of something we really want to do, and we're gonna do it live and in stereo with you guys.
Yep.
So one thing we talked about in the last episode was I mentioned something about how like your zodiac sign, you were a book, and it said that a quart of silver flames was like Leo's, and I'm a Leo. I got my 30th birthday coming up in a few weeks. Yikes. No, actually not yikes. I'm actually excited. But
Your 30s are the best.
I've heard that too, and I feel it. I feel like
30s. Mabo said 30, 40, 30s, 40s, and 50s.
I'm
So
excited about it.
yeah.
It's fine. So anyway, I was the Leo was ACOSF. If we're talking phonemically, it's um so then I saw what character are you based on your zodiac sign?
Mhm.
And are we revealing what we found? Or no,
It was court.
Court. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. We're taking the quiz about character.
Yes.
I'm just that excited about this that I got it messed up. So it said what court you belonged on in based on your zodiac sign.
Mhm.
So mine, I'm a Leo. My birthday is at the end of July. I got summer court, which we're in the summer season.
Yes.
I am one of Tarquin's people.
Yes.
Could you see me in like a shell outfit?
Yeah.
I feel like I belong in the court of nightmares. Black on black, okay?
I am a Libra and I'm the decor, and I just love that because I love helium so much, and I feel like I belong. In the
You
decor.
look like you would glow there.
I'm like excited about that. Like I love the decor. If there was one I had to pick, it would be the decor. Like don't get me wrong, I love the night court, but I personally I don't think I like would belong there. Like, you know.
Okay, all right. So that makes me that's what they're telling us based on our zodiac
Yeah.
sign. What would you choose for me?
Summer.
Really?
Yeah.
I get sunburnt really easy.
No, but like it's
Summer
something
all
about the
year?
greens and like the earthiness of it.
Really?
Yeah, like the plants and like, yeah,
Oh,
I really do.
I feel like
'Cause
I feel like I'm a Valaris person.
Yeah, that would be my
Moved.
second choice.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Choice 1 and 2. I'm good with either of those people.
I really,
I would follow Tarquin or Rhysand into battle.
I really would. Like first comes to mind the summer court.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the same thing for you.
Okay.
I gotta
Don't
say,
say autumn.
nobody wants no,
Well,
no,
my birthday's in autumn, but don't
no.
do it.
You're autumn or spring. Spring's the worst season.
Mhm.
I'd go to autumn first.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I do like fall, but I don't like the autumn court.
correct.
So.
I'm putting you in day. I have to. It's perfect for you.
I just feel like it's like yes. I feel like they're so like I just see like golds and like light hues, neutrals,
Mhm.
like
You make the whole place shimmer.
aw, thanks, friend. No, I am so happy with Decor. Like I would go there right now.
I know.
I'll take a one-way ticket to the Decor. Seriously.
We said that about Valaris too. We're like, take one-way ticket.
But that was like
that's okay.
No, that was fine because that was like March, so it was still a
Yes.
gloomier time. Like we
Yeah.
were in that winter vibe, but now that I'm fully immersed in summer, like look at these tan lines, girl. I'm going to the Decor. Like I am so
Do you want to
serious.
come to the summer court with me?
Yes. I feel like summer and day they kind of like they're parallel to each
What would
other.
I don't have a second choice for you because summer I guess would be my second choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So I feel like they go parallel.
Love
Okay,
it.
now I'll take this quiz. It's
Okay, so I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna ask Kiki the questions. Okay.
Okay, so sorry, I have it like pulled up, so you don't have to read the answers to me.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'll like read it back to you.
Oh, so you're gonna pick the answer, then
Yeah.
I'm gonna click it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So question 1: when faced with a tough decision, what's your go-to approach?
Ooh. Okay, I have to say I go with my gut feeling, even if it means taking a risk.
Okay.
Has to go with my gut. My poor gut.
Hot girls have tummy problems.
Yeah. It's genetic.
Okay.
Oh God. I don't
Which
know.
word best describes your sense of humor?
I think witty.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. I like
Okay.
it. Go with your first
Or
instinct.
sarcastic.
How do you handle adversity and challenges?
Ooh. Ah. I guess I trust my instincts and adapt quickly.
Yeah, you're very.
This is very hard.
Which quality do you value most in a friend?
Loyalty.
What's your favorite way to relax and unwind?
Good night. Reading a good book.
Heck yeah. When you make a promise, how likely are you to keep it?
I always keep my promises no matter what. What kind of question is that?
Right?
A promise is a promise.
What's your approach to leadership and decision making?
I lead with empathy.
How do you respond to criticism or negative feedback?
I think I use it as an opportunity for self-improvement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm getting annoyed because like I'm
Why?
not trying to pick all those in the upper left corner, but it's like
It's
so who is it?
calling you. In a conflict, how do you handle your emotions?
I tend to avoid conflict altogether. I hate conflict.
What's your ideal way to spend a quiet evening?
Probably in a cozy atmosphere with loved ones.
Are you ready? I have your answer. Did you see it?
No, I didn't.
Okay, are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
You're most like Rhysand. Rhys.
What the?
Let's.
Oh
no! Like, hey, that's good.
no, that's good. No, okay.
I'm gonna read why. Okay.
I made it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready. It's hot in here.
I can't. Okay. You're most like Rhys. Like Rhysand, you are fiercely loyal and protective of your loved ones. You have a charismatic and charming personality, but don't let others see the real you easily. You are willing to make sacrifices for the greater good and are not afraid to take risks to achieve your goals. Your strength and resilience are admired by those around you. That's very descriptive of you, I feel like.
I feel like that's really pretty accurate.
I like that. And
I didn't think that I was most like Rhysand, but when they put it like that, I see it.
This is BuzzFeed. They're the experts, okay?
I know. You guys gotta take this quiz. This is so fun.
All right.
Okay, ready, Brenna?
Yep.
When faced with a tough decision, what's your go-to approach?
I analyze the pros and cons before making a choice.
Okay.
Oh.
Which word best describes your sense of humor?
Wow.
I know.
I don't know. Playful.
Okay. How do you handle adversity and challenges?
I stay determined and face them head on.
Perfect. Which quality do you value most in a friend?
Compassion.
What's your favorite way to relax and unwind?
Party. Just kidding. Reading a good book.
Party.
Party.
Party. When you make a promise, how likely are you to keep it?
I always keep my promises.
Right. I'm like, what kind of a question is that? We got some snakes on this BuzzFeed quiz.
We ain't no Slytherin over here. We Hufflepuff.
What's your approach to leadership and decision making?
I lead with empathy and strong sense of responsibility.
How do you respond to criticism or negative feedback?
This is subjective, because if it's like at work or like based, like I want to use it to grow, but like if it's between something that I don't agree with, I'll get defensive.
All right. So you want to do that?
For the sake of being different, I'm gonna say I can get a little defensive.
All right. In a conflict, how do you handle your emotions?
Oh, I express my emotions openly and honestly.
Perfect. What's your ideal way to spend a quiet evening?
In a cozy atmosphere with my loved ones.
Okay, this is so exciting. Are you ready? I
kind of want to guess.
Okay.
Am I Elaine?
Yeah!
I knew it!
How did you know that?
I don't know. I just feel like it.
Okay, ready?
Okay, yeah, tell me why.
You and Elaine share your gentle and nurturing personality. You have a deep connection with nature and a calming presence. Your kindness and empathy make you a natural caretaker, and you are always there to offer comfort and support to those in need. Your ability to see beauty in the world is a source of inspiration to others and makes people drawn to you. That is so spot on.
Aw, that's nice.
So cute.
They did very well here.
I love this. Like, I literally love this. We gotta like link
this was fun. We will. And let's link it on our episode.
Yeah, I literally love this. Okay.
That was so fun. That was fun. Thank you for indulging with us. That was fun.
Yeah, that was really fun.
We enjoyed that.
Take that. That was amazing.
And
the questions were actually like very thought-provoking.
What was the title of it? ACOTAR quiz. Which character? Hold on, I gotta scroll back up. Reveal your inner ACOTAR character with just 10 therapeutic questions.
They were. That's what I'm saying. They were really like very thought-provoking. They weren't just like BS.
I like the subheading. You might think you can hunt like Feyre or charm like Cassian, but now is the time to prove it.
I love it. I wonder what the algorithm is, because there are only four answers.
Yeah,
so I'm like interested. So moving on to spilling the beans on a quart of silver flames.
The beans are brewed.
The mics are set. Okay, Brenna. Tell me truthfully, like, what are your overall thoughts and feelings on this book, or like, what was your mindset going through the book? Like, truthfully.
I'm gonna get real. I gotta put this down.
All right.
I gotta get real. All right.
It's getting real.
So, a quart of silver flames. This one got a lot of hype.
did.
I'm gonna start by that.
I saw it all over TikTok.
A lot of people like this one. A lot
Yep.
of people. A lot of people. Bren was not one of those people.
I kind of feel the same way.
I didn't not like it. Let me be like very transparent with that. It wasn't that I didn't like it. What point of view, I'm still as much as, and we'll talk more about this later in spilling the beans when we get into spoilers and key events and things like that. But it was hard. It didn't gravitate, like I didn't gravitate towards it like I did with the other ones.
Yep.
I didn't get sucked in. Like I'd read a couple chapters. I'm like, okay, I'm tired. Like I'm going to go to bed, or I'm going to break away and go do something. Like I wasn't like sitting for 4 hours like I was with the other ones reading the chapters. The point of view did make it a little difficult for me to visualize what was going on. So I had to reread a lot. It was slower for me to get through because I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing things.
Yeah.
Or I wanted to make sure that the connections I was making were like valid and like, oh, that's actually what happened.
Right.
And I'm going to say this, and we've talked about this. I like romance books.
Right.
I read a lot of contemporary romance books. You know, things like Emily Henry, things like Allie Hazelwood, things like books written by those people. I love a good romance story.
Yes.
However, I like when there's substance. Like I'm reading Abby J right now, and the romance has a backstory.
Yes.
And it's dual point of view, but in their first person.
Right.
I don't like smut.
Yeah.
I don't like that word because it makes it seem like it's a negative thing.
Yes.
I have no problem with being provocative.
Right.
There's actually a Gracie Abrams song that I'm obsessed with right now. She goes, I don't have a problem with provocative. I don't. Right. Whatever floats your boat. No judgment here.
Right.
But when I'm reading a book, that's just not the type of book that I like.
I agree.
And I feel like, and I'm just going to get all my thoughts out, and then I'm going to ask you the same question because I think there's things we agree on and maybe things that are different. And I'd love to hear your thoughts too. I felt like this book was a little bit of a turn to the mainstream. I felt like it was a little bit like, this is the type of stuff people like to read.
Yeah.
Because it's the newest one. And I would love to check the copyright date again. I did when I first started, but I think we're in this new era where it's like, you know, I make bookmarks and I'm on Etsy and I'll search bookmarks and it's like, leave me alone, I'm reading smut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like, I just feel like that's a really big reader mentality right now. And that's fine if that's what you like. It's just not my personal preference. This one, it felt cumbersome after a while. Like I was like, okay, we're getting at that again. Oh, there it is again. Oh, and it happened early. A lot of the books where there's spicier scenes, there's a build up to it.
Yep.
This, it was like,
yeah.
And I was just like, okay, let's just. And it's just, but there were also really deep, and it was a coping thing for her, and I get it. So and I'm excited to talk about those things with you.
Yeah.
But if I'm giving you my first general thought, I thought the point of view was interesting and interesting shifts. Still not my favorite. Harder for me to make personal connections to. A little bit repetitive with the spiciness.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And it wasn't my favorite one. There were, I think it was my least favorite one. How about you, Keek?
So yeah, I actually was the same way. It took me like so long to actually like get into it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just slow to me in the beginning. It was extremely slow. And I think because we had to get used to that new POV, it was like harder to get attached to it, read it. The smut was a lot. It wasn't just like here and there, like you said, it was very frequent, but not only the frequency, like the length. Like I'm talking like pages and pages, chapters of smut, and I'm like, holy, I don't know,
holy beans.
I'm like, I'm just like sitting. Oh, no. I'm just like laying in the pool, and I'm just like, is it ever gonna happen? I don't know. It's just like I'm the same way. It's like to each their own, but for me, it's like it's not really like what I like.
I recommended this series to my mom, and I was like, "I'm so sorry about the last book. I didn't know it was coming." She was like, "You get to those parts and you skim read. You did, you did." And it wasn't until their connection started really forming, and it started to be going on longer, and they threw in the training on top of it, and a lot was going on, that I felt like it became more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, and even then I just skimmed. It's like, what else are you gonna do? It's like there's no. If there, I would skim it to see if there's like meaning behind it. I'm like, okay, something happened that happened before. If it's just another, you know what, then I'm just like skipping past it. But I will say, the end of the book really made up for like the waiting game, and just so many beautiful things were in this book. They really were, and I can't wait to talk about those.
She packed the punch in the last 2 hundo like she always does.
She really did. But also, I will say, I think I have to agree with you. I think this may have been my least favorite. But then again, the first one for me, like, I didn't like the first one.
I would rather read the first one than this one.
I think I have to agree though with you because it was so new, and that's when like her and Tamlin were, and she was coming into this world, so that was cool for me. And I also really do love Feyre, so those two are probably tied for.
I would have
I
loved.
don't want to say last. I don't think there's any last in this series.
No,
but just my least favorite.
Yeah, full disclosure, we're not saying it was trash.
No, because we have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely, we do.
We have so much to
talk about. But it was not. It was not my favorite one.
Like, it wasn't like ACOMAF or ACOTAR. Those ones I did not want to put down. I was like, oh my god, like I don't want to like leave these books. They were so good. Whereas this one, when I ended it, I was like, okay.
I would like to reread ACOMAF now. At some point, because I think even then it was still the beginning.
Yeah.
And I would love to look back and be like, these are the little connections that we missed because we didn't like see the full picture.
You know what? Someone said on TikTok, actually I've seen this a lot all over TikTok, that their first read through, I mean, essentially everyone rereads through ACOTAR. And I think we'll definitely have to when the new book comes out. But their first read through is just like really their first read through. And then the second one is really like into the story and into the world, making those connections that, you know, they were ignorant to in the beginning just because simply it was the first time reading it.
Yep.
So yeah, but let's get into like
all
the points that we have to make about this book, because there is a lot of great substance here. There really is, and I don't want to like knock the entire book.
Yeah,
it just wasn't my personal favorite. There is a lot of substance that we could talk about, so let's dive into it.
When we were talking about this book and starting it, I made a prediction that there was going to be some sort of uprising in the Illyrian camp. Not exactly what I was imagining, but I thought it was fascinating seeing Nesta's journey through being made have its impact on her trauma and her carrying that now that dust has settled after war and more conflict is coming up. And then I thought it was also interesting to see the parallels of Cassian's golden retriever energy, but also his coping with conflict in a way that was very close to home. So the first thing I think that's worth mentioning is, we've talked about this a lot, and we've talked about it with Feyre also, was the journey through recovering and dealing with PTSD in life.
Yes.
There was a moment in this book where it referred to Nesta as a wolf, which I thought was interesting because they also referred to Feyre as one in previous books. And I remember marking that. And I remember feeling like this certain way about how the author was depicting those two characters. And now that we're living in Nesta's world a little bit more, her journey through PTSD and how she was very self-aware, which I loved. But one of the things that I personally related to in this book was that when you're going through something really dark and heavy, you may be able to acknowledge it in your own head, but it's very difficult to rely on other people for help.
Yeah.
And I think we saw Nesta really talk. I think the author did a really good job of depicting how the internal thought can really take over. But instead of sharing that, because sharing it feels like weakness, it feels like guilt, it feels like a lot of different things. I thought that she was spot on through Nesta's point of view, which is I think why it was written this way, to be able to describe that more to the reader.
Right.
Instead of Nesta saying, I don't deserve good things, Nesta thought she didn't deserve good things. And so that's a different delivery. and it allows the reader to take that and run with it, I think, in the way that they want to, which
Yes.
I don't know. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, there's a lot of like things that are left for interpretation here, and I think it's like um it goes through that thought process and allows the reader to understand what's internally going on with Nesta. Whereas like we know she's so vain that it's like if it was written from her point of view, would we have gotten that same
The depth.
Yeah, we wouldn't have, because she, it all kind of goes back to ego. She has a big ego, which is fine, but it's like the things that she's going through, she internalizes them. So it's like if it was told from her point of view, she wouldn't probably share that with the reader. I know that's kind of a stretch, but it's just kind of like it goes back to her character, and it's like it's fitting. Now that we understand her a little bit more from this book, it's fitting why it was third person.
And I think honestly too, we've pondered that for quite some time now. Like going on 2 episodes, 2 books, like why the shift?
Yep.
Why the shift? And that to me, although maybe stretched, it makes sense to me as the reader.
Yeah.
And I'm running with it.
Yeah.
That's why this podcast is such a beautiful thing, because we're not critiquing her choice in doing it. We're trying to be like, this is how it felt with us.
Yeah, and honestly, like at first I did not understand it, and even with A Court of Frost and Starlight, that that was a different point of view because it was from multiple point of views, but we were still in that first person. Except with, I think, Cassian and Moore, I think we weren't. But this one was just completely different on its side.
Yeah.
Just because of the third person, but I understand it now because it makes so much sense.
Yep. And I think that really packed the punch with the whole thought behind everyone has some sort of silent battle that you know nothing about.
Yep.
And I mean, I think about that, and even a lot of this really prompted a lot of personal reflection for me in very different ways, but it just rings true. And I've even felt this way towards other people. Like, how did I miss the signs? Like Cassian says, like, when she finally reveals to him at the end of the book, like why fire bothers her, it triggers her. It's hard to learn your own triggers sometimes. I know whenever I've been triggered in anything, like, relating to loss, grief, pain, whatever, it's hard for me to be like, oh, that was my trick. Like, you learn to deal with that over time, which is a common message in this book that I appreciated, that these things take time. Nobody's journey is the same through this. And like, but also the people who are your support. So in this case, the inner circle. Yeah, maybe they were disappointed that they couldn't help. Like, they were frustrated that they couldn't help, and they kind of felt like they gave her this ultimatum. But at the end of the day, it just goes to show that, like, when people want it, they'll cipher through it themselves. Like, when they're ready to meet you, they're ready to meet you. Like, you can't force people to heal the way you want them to.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that very much so about this book. It's hard to ask for help in grief and pain. And I thought just in general, Sarah J Maas depicted that through her words, through Nesta, beautifully, really.
Yeah. I think another thing is that she really hit home in this book is like not to silence those thoughts. Like, you can't oppress them. You have to let them be. And it's just like you learn to kind of deal with them. You learn to look for the good, even though there's so much bad. And I have a lot of different quotes that kind of reflect back to that.
Yeah, I think that's great. So one of the things that I think we both appreciated about this book was the mind stilling.
Yes.
That the priestess Gwyn, who I loved, shared with Nesta that the previous really well-known Valkyrie female warriors had used during conflict. So you also love this part, Geek. So do you want to talk a little bit about like what the mind stilling parts meant to you?
Yeah, it was just honestly like, okay, I loved that Nesta was so open to it, first of all. I feel like, and we kind of go into this further with her friendship with the other priestesses, but I just feel like her walls broke down for these friends that she had early on in this book. And the fact that she was so accepting to this mind stealing practice, and that she was very consistent about it. It like became a ritual for her, and it worked for her. And I loved it, and I actually like it hit different for me because the things that she was saying, I'm like, I feel like these are things that I could be put into practice in my life. Like, I felt like I was like in a therapy session where I was like reading these pages because I'm like, wait, this is like so applicable to like anyone that has like thoughts that run rampant in your mind and you want to just.
It was absolutely a take on practicing mindfulness, which has been the biggest thing that I have learned through going through therapy. was being able to be present in the moment using your breath. Your breath, that is like actual science. Your breath can completely change how your emotions are regulating within you and like
Yeah.
what you're going through internally. So it was that practice of mindfulness that she used, and it was very it was very spot on, and I really enjoyed that. It was really beautiful. And again, Nesta self-awareness, and she was to the point where she was like, either whether she was pushing herself to go down the 10,000 steps or practicing mindfulness, she did try things in her own
Yes.
way. It wasn't like she was sitting there and just being like, "Well, this is just the way I am." Like, screw it.
Yes.
She did try things, including trying to make her own friends. She's forced
Yes.
to be in this place, so she's
Mhm.
like, "I'm going to find people who get me or that I
Yes.
want to get in return."
Yep. And another thing is, my favorite part of, like, her whole mindfulness journey was when she was facing the fire and she recognized, "Okay, fire triggers me because I hear the snapping and the crackling and I think of my father's neck," but she faced it. She was like, "This is fire. It's not my father's neck. I'm okay to be around fire," and she was
Yeah.
just, like, so accepting of, like, things that triggered her, and she faced her triggers head on, and I just thought that was really I didn't expect that from Nesta because we saw in the other books her being so stubborn
Yeah.
and her, like, so stuck in this, like, dark place, but in this book, we saw her helping herself.
Nesta's growth was impressive.
Yeah.
And that's why at the end of the book, when we start seeing moments, because that was towards like the endish of
Mhm.
the book, where that's why we say the ending saved this book.
Yep.
Um, there was a line as you were saying that when she was facing the fire and she
Mhm.
was acknowledging that she was safe and whatever, she said, "I had faced it. I did not fail."
Yep.
And I marked that. I was like, I felt that because I have felt that way. Like
Yeah.
when you face something head on and you get through it, it's like, I'm not a failure. I
Yeah.
just did that. Like,
Mhm.
pat on your back for that.
Yeah. I loved that part. I was like, "She's so strong."
And she didn't get there alone.
No.
So let's talk about the things that made Nesta successful.
Yes.
Cassian and his training, obviously a part of
Absolutely.
it.
Yes.
But I think there was a deeper core. So, when anyone's navigating anything in life, especially like relationships, she had a hard time facing her feelings for
Yeah,
Cassian.
she did.
She needed to figure some stuff out about her first. And a big part of her being able to do that was her found family and her friends. So she gathered this gal pal crew, which I loved.
I love
We
that.
had Emery and Gwen. Gwen, sorry, was a priestess that there was a callback from her from a previous book. She had
Yeah.
gone through something traumatic and then ended up in the library that Rhysand had opened for safe haven for priestesses.
Mhm.
And then Emery was an Illyrian resident at the Illyrian camp who was severely abused and battered and mistreated by her father, family, and the fellow Illyrian men.
Yeah.
So all three of them having very severely traumatic experiences, but their friendship was not a trauma bond.
No.
So, and Nesta had asked a certain thing of something, and it gave it to her. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
All right. So, Nesta's friendship also with the house. She was made. She asked, "What did she ask the house?" Amryn refers back to it. She said, "You asked the house for what you needed or whatever, or to be home, or to like, and it gave you what you needed."
Yeah, because so she kept calling it the house throughout the book, but then at a certain point, she recognized it as a home, and she recognized that it was like her friend and that it was
Mhm.
helping her, and it would give her everything she needed. Like when she would request a book, or like she would say something out loud or in her head, and the home would like
Yeah.
react to that. And I just love this part of it because in the beginning of the book, Nesta was so alone. She was shutting everyone in her life out, completely out. She had been in like this hiding for I think almost a year.
Mhm.
Um, really bad habits, but the house was always there for her and loved her unconditionally, no matter if she couldn't love it back. You know what I mean? She was so cold in the beginning, and the house was always there. And she had mentioned that this was her first home. She
Mhm.
had a hard time recognizing it as a home because she had never had one.
Mhm.
Um, I just loved that part of it. It was very beautiful. I loved that they shared the bond of reading.
Mhm.
um, that was very like comedic in the beginning.
Awesome.
It was awesome. I loved her friendship with the house, and I also loved her little girl gang.
Mhm.
I also think it's like important to recognize that, like how kind of you said, she had a lot of things to deal with internally to mend her relationship with Cassian. I don't know why I keep saying that. And she opened her heart to her little girl gang besties before
Mhm.
Cassian, but I think that helped her entirely
Mhm.
because she was able to like unapologetically love something and also like give
Yeah.
it their all without having any shame. She had no shame when it
She
came to her
needed people
friends.
to prove to her that they could see her beyond a mess
Mhm.
and not one of the things I related the most with Nesta was being hesitant to continue to open up because you
Yeah.
fear of losing it.
Yeah.
And she verbalized that at some point. I remember
Yeah.
highlighting that, like, oh my God, yes.
Mhm.
So I think, and she said that to Cassie, and she's like, I don't deserve you because I always feel like you're gonna die. Like you're gonna be gone. I'm gonna lose you too. And what she needed to learn and see from other people was that she isn't always going to be left
Right.
and that she's more than her pain and things like that, and she had to learn to find her way in the world a little bit.
Yeah.
Which she did through reading, she did through working at the library, she did through making these friendships, and she also did it through music. She had an
Yeah.
artistic outlet, dance.
Mhm.
And I thought the parallels to her and Feyre's trauma in particular were very fascinating, that like Feyre
Yes.
had like the painting,
Yep.
Nesta had the dancing and the music, Elaine has the gardening.
Yeah.
They all have this thing that they channel. And I think with Nesta too, something that I really enjoyed reading about her was the irony of how when Cassian gave her the music box, or like how when she was like thinking about music, how the Valaris themed music lifted her, because we saw that in book one with Feyre when Rhysand sent her the image in her head of the music he hears in the streets of Valaris,
Mhm.
and it pulled them from this dark place. So I
Yeah.
think that was also a very fascinating like parallel, um, and allowed both of them, very different people, to have something to hold on to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think it was interesting how, they each had their own outlet, whether it was music for Nesta, painting for Farah, but they also both, we always talk about this. They love to read. We love when the characters use reading as an outlet, as an escape.
Mhm.
So that was really awesome.
One thing that I absolutely loved was the read-in night between the girls also, and
Mhm.
they read books together and did silly things at the house together, and my favorite part,
Yep.
made friendship bracelets.
Oh yeah, that part was awesome. But also, okay, yeah, and the friendship bracelets they come up later in the book as like the saving grace
That they
because they're
guided
the
each
guiding
other.
light. Yeah, and also I absolutely loved when this is gonna like make me cry when Gwen wrote them a book that featured their stories.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, stop. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I loved their friendship. And honestly, we never really saw that type of friendship in
We
this
didn't.
series. We
Mhm.
saw it with Mor and Feyre, but it was not instant like this, and it wasn't as close. It was like
Feyre has the friends
mhm.
of the inner circle, but there's that feeling of it's at first.
Yeah, that it was like
It's obligatory.
yes, exactly. Yes, I agree. And it wasn't
She's
like
the high lady.
yes.
Right? Like
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
these girls are like, we are all
Yeah.
going through it and we
Yep.
love you anyway.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
yeah. Mhm. I love them. Um Thoughts on Cassian?
Hey. So first of all, I love how, and you'll see it on Book Talk, you'll see it anywhere if you're an ACOTAR fan. The like I sent you the reel last night where it was
Mhm.
like it was the Barbie voiceover, and it was like, how Barbie has a good day every day, and it was like Nesta in a box, and it was like Nesta has a good day when she gets to do these things. Ken only has a good day if Barbie's looking at him, and it was Cassian in the box as Ken, and I thought that was really funny.
That's so funny.
I like Cassian.
I do too.
When I read it, I think, something I've been talked through as I've navigated life after loss or pain or grief or whatever, and like navigating like fearing of losing something. Sometimes it's nice to have and be with people who just keep you present in the moment.
I agree.
And I think that he was a perfect depiction of that and representation of that. But what I find interesting, and I'd love to get your hot take on this, Cake, was some people were saying he was problematic. And this is why. They said he was problematic because it took a lot for her to admit her feelings. And she said, I loved you at the end. She said, I love you. And he did not say it back. People are really upset about that. He never said, I love you, Nesta.
You know what? I don't agree with that. I don't agree.
I don't either,
because,
but
first of all, like,
how else was he
He
supposed to
was-
show her?
he was so patient with Nesta the entire time. I am not going to hold a grudge with him for not saying I love you back. He has his own internal battles that he has to get through as well.
The freaking music thing he went.
Yeah, no.
Come on.
I'm not going for that. Some people are being greedy if that's what they're mad about.
Sometimes people show that they love you in different ways. Like,
Yeah.
I think about, like, myself. I love to have deep conversations if I'm with somebody, whether it's friends or a partner or whatever.
Mhm.
I love to share like deep thoughts and feelings and things like that. But then some people like to like make you a nice dinner.
Right.
Or
It goes-
be like, can I take something off your plate? Like,
yeah, it goes back to love languages. Everyone has their different, like, vocalizing it isn't always the answer.
and how obvious was it in all of these books that Cassian is not a man of words?
Yeah.
He's a man of action. He's self-conscious about being viewed as like a brute.
Right.
So like he doesn't seem like the type of person that's just gonna be like, I love you.
Yeah, like some people just aren't like that. They're not gonna be like, oh my god, I love you. Like it's just it's shown through actions. It's shown through their.
One thing that he did do that did piss me off was when she was like, Rhysand, he's a jerk. Like she was like, they had Nesta and Rhysand had a very back and forth type of relationship.
Yeah.
And I understand that all stems from their different views on how they protect. So, so Nessa's talking about Rhysand like that, and then he gets really defensive. And he's like, "Do not talk about my High Lord like that." And then Rhysand is freaking out about Nesta when she basically tells Feyre that the baby is an Illyrian baby, and he's like, "Get her out of here! I want to kill her." And he didn't say anything. People are like, why would he stick up for Rhysand and not her? And I'm like, but he did. He did stick up for her. Do you think things would have gone well for him if he was like, Rhysand, I'm not gonna do this, and then like, don't talk about my lady like that? She would have been like, I can do it myself.
Yeah, exactly. I also think that Nesta and Rhysand, they have okay, in some ways they are very similar. I think that's why they clash. But I don't bat an eye towards that. It's not like he publicly humiliated Nesta and was like, you know what I mean? He was just saying, don't talk about my High Lord like that. Like, he is the High Lord.
And we did see a different side of Rhys in this book. He was very uptight.
He was so bent on his shape because of like everything with the baby, which I completely understand.
Right.
But I don't look at Cassian in any way because of that. It's like, if you think about it, like if you were in a relationship and like you came at someone's best friend, I'd do the same thing. If someone came at my best friend, I'd be like, watch your tone. But like if they, you know what I mean? And it's like if they have some type of authority, like a High Lord, I don't know.
The thing that Rhysand was the most upset about was also very touchy. Like, it wasn't like that his disdain. What she did was messed up.
It was very messed up, especially like knowing. Like, imagine like anyone that's pregnant is like they shouldn't be under that much stress, and like especially when it's like their life is at stake. Like Feyre's life was at stake,
and she did it to hurt her.
Yeah, and Nessa's telling her that, and it's not like in a calm way. She's like saying it like very reactively.
Do you know that they're lying to you?
Yeah,
no.
So I think that like Rhysand had a right to be mad, and I think that Nessa should have saw that coming, especially like the relationship that her and Rhysand have, and not saying it like her and Feyre didn't have a great relationship at this point either. So I don't know why she's creating more problems for herself.
Feyre had a very giving heart and has given her multiple opportunities, as has Elaine, and I'm glad that she, in the most ultimate way, was able to make up for that.
I agree. But I don't I like Cassian.
So do I. He's the person I would have picked for her.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the conversation they had really quickly when they then they found out that they were mated. Did you watch Twilight? In the book, he's like, say it. Say what we are, Nesta. Just say it. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like Twilight when she's in the woods with Robert Pattinson's character, Edward. And he's like, you know what I am? Say it. Say it out loud. I was like, there are so much Twilight feelings in this book. I even thought that like more reminded me of Rosalie, who was one of the vampires in Twilight. I have to get this out because it's bothering me. And she, at the end, they kind of say that quick snippet about how Moore is really protective of the baby.
Yeah.
So was Rosalie in Twilight. I just want to say that. So all my Twilight stands out there, if you felt that way, no, you weren't alone. That's all I got to say about that.
That's interesting. You said that in the first book too. Okay, yeah. I also love that the end of the book was set during solstice.
Yep, because she came around.
Yep, it showed how much time elapsed since just the last book.
So I believe what I saw was on Book Talk. I don't think it was necessarily a chapter in the book. And if it was not on the edition that I have. But it was something about that Nyx. Am I saying that right? Nyx?
Yeah.
It came from some sort of ancient person who had something to do with like previous like war in Prythian, or like they had some sort of positive impact, or they were a warrior, something like that. And when he pitched it to her, she like loved it. And it was a male name, and I remember her saying it was a female name, like a strong something like that. And she's like, I kept hearing it over and over and kept saying it, and it fit our son.
Oh, that's so cute.
So I thought that was cute. Speaking of the baby, though, I'm kind of a little miffed that we learned of this news through Nesta's point of view.
Okay, I can understand that. It was also very sudden. Like, okay, we knew it was coming, but first of all, I did not expect it to come so early on in the book.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it was like a very slow book, and then all of a sudden, just like, Feyre was pregnant. I was like, oh.
And I feel like I sensed it because he was messing with Helian's charms on how to like block her, and like Cassian even kept saying like you couldn't tell Feyre was in the room because Rhys had the block around her.
Oh yeah.
And then so I suspected something was going on with them. I also like thought it was really interesting that like how like I understand why he was so protective and like neurotic, but then when she disclosed that like once she found out that the baby could like hurt her because it was gonna be Illyrian, and then she said the thing about how they made the pact to go together if they were to go. I remember that saying, and I've seen videos and like quotes since like re-referencing it, and that was an ACOTAR, and I didn't note it at the time. I didn't realize that was a bond when they were like, let's never leave each other. If I go, you go.
Yeah.
And they were holding hands when they said that, and my brain at the time did not like recognize that, oh, that's gonna end up being a bond.
Right. Wow.
I know. So
that's incredible.
I love when Amryn was like, you stupid romantic fools.
I know. I love Amryn so much. Yeah. So should we go right into Hits Different, Brent?
Yeah.
There's a lot of good quotes in here.
We do. We, again, both had a lot of moments from this book that resonated. So our Hits Different segment is going to be quite the part here. Quite the segment.
Okay, so let me find my first one on page. Oh wait, are you first? 113. You're first, I think.
Oh, it's me. I am first. All right. Let's do it. This is a quick one, I remember. So it hits different. Page 113. This is just kind of like a brief moment between like Nesta being reflective after a conversation with Gwen in the library. But Nesta knew. Oh, sorry. Gwen hooked her hair behind her arched ears. Freckles dotted her hands too, like splattered bits of rust. If marks of trauma lingered, any evidence was hidden by her robe. But Nesta knew well how invisible wounds could be, how they could scar as deeply and badly as any physical breaking. And it was for that reminder alone that Nesta said more gently, I'll do it right now. Perhaps she had a little bit of her decency quota left. So that was like when Gwen was being bossy when she first met her and was like, put my books back for me, Paige.
Yeah.
And Nesta was like, instead of like, but that just demonstrates one, her self-awareness, her self-control that she does deep down have, and that she's aware of other people's struggles and always has been.
Yes.
So an interesting look behind the facade of Nesta. And just, that hit different because it is, like we've said in this podcast so far, like you never know what silent battles people are battling. So that was her acknowledgement of it. And I just thought that was a good quote.
That's awesome. So this is on 180. This is between Nesta and Cassian. He said, I've heard enough. Or I'm sorry, she said, I've heard enough. Her words were breathless. I'll never sleep tonight. She shook her head, taking another bite of the food. I don't know how you can, having faced that all. He leaned back in the seat. You learn to live with it, how to block out the horrors from your present thoughts. He added a touch quietly, but they still lurk there in the back of your mind. And I thought this just was kind of foreshadowing for the mindfulness, and I like picked up on it early, like, oh my gosh, I love how he's helping her navigate through these like dark thoughts that she's having. And she's essentially been living in her head for the past year and a half.
Yeah.
And all of her darkness has kind of consumed her. And Cashin, she's like saying everything that he's endured, all the battle, all the death, um she doesn't know how he can get through that. But then he kind of sheds light on, these are the things that I've seen, this is how I get through them. They're always going to be there, but you have to let them.
He and Rhys and have both really had that perspective, if you really think about it, because Rhys had told the same kind of thing to Feyre too, about how you can either let things like tear you down and break you, or learn to live with it.
Yeah. I think you're next on 302.
On 302, I have Emery's mouth curled upward. I live alone up in the mountains. I have nothing to do with my spare time except work in my garden and read whatever books I order through the mail service. And in the winter, I don't even have the distraction of my gardening. So yes, I like to read. I cannot survive without reading.
Yes, I loved that.
Just like, I don't need to go into that more. I just loved that, again, that common theme of books being lifelines in characters' lives and books we like. Just love that. So that hit different for me. Book bonds. I marked it with a heart.
I love that. Page 410. This is just another little bit on the mindfulness and how it's really come to fruition in this book. Nesta's kind of reflecting on things that she's gone through in her past, and she acknowledges them, and she says, I acknowledge these thoughts and I am letting go. Nesta inhaled an eighth time. I am focusing on my breathing. These thoughts exist and I am letting them pass by. Nesta took another breath, forced her mind to only think of her breathing. And it just shows like her progress. In the beginning, she recognized and she gained some knowledge from Cassian, like in the previous quote that I had. She recognized that she had some work to do, but then when you finally like saw her doing the work and like how it worked for her, that was like so inspiring and really just like beautiful. So yeah, that hit different for me. And then I think I'm again on 461. Oh, this is about Nessa's relationship with the house. The spring court had felt stagnant, hollow, empty despite its growing life, but this house was alive. It welcomed her, wanted her to grow and thrive. It was a place where she might rest or explore, where she could be whoever and whatever she wished. Was that what home was? She had never learned. But this place, yes, home might be a good name for it. And I just love that because we finally like see Nesta find her own home.
That and like her shift the direction of her mentality, right? Like, I don't deserve these things, to now maybe this is what I deserve.
Yeah, like maybe this is exactly what I
Yeah.
And I love that she's so accepting of that.
I have like a dual situation. So this is a little long, but this should be like my longest. On 505, 506, it kind of keeps going into the same thought. So I'm just going to read parts of both of these moments and kind of just like cap them up together. But it said, I'm going to tell you, this is after Nesta and Cassian kind of have this moment. Nesta had just gone through a really big blowout with Feyre, disclosed that the inner circle was hiding something from her, and they go on this hike, and they finally reach this destination that they were trying to. His goal was to kind of push her to her limits and kind of get her to like become aware. So the analogy with the mountain was meaningful to me.
Yes.
Because I have my tattoo with a mountain with the sun rising. It says the sun will rise and we will try again. So the mountain situation, I really like that whole chapter.
Yeah.
But while they're there, she finally breaks. Like, she finally just is like, I can't keep living my life this way, blah, blah, blah. And he says to her, after she kind of breaks down and opens up about all of her trauma, finally trusts him with this information and lets him in. He says, I'm going to tell you that you will get through it, that you will face all of this and you will get through it, that these tears are good, Nesta. These tears mean you care. I'm going to tell you that it is not too late, not for any of it, and I can't tell you when or how, but it will get better. What you feel, this guilt and pain and self-loathing, you will get through it, but only if you are willing to fight, only if you are willing to face it and embrace it and walk through it to emerge on the other side of it. And maybe you will still feel the tinge of pain, but there is another side, a better side. And she says, I don't know how I will get there. I don't know if I'm capable of it. And he just reassures her that you are. I've seen it. I see what you can do, and I can see what you do when you're willing to fight for the people that you love. And then on the next page, it kind of continues, and it says, he says, everyone deserves happiness. The road there isn't easy. It is long and hard and often traveled utterly blind, but you keep going. He nodded to the mountains and the lake, because you know the destination will be worthwhile. She stared up at him, this male who had walked with her for 5 days in near silence, waiting, she knew, for this moment. All the things I've done before. He interrupts her and says, leave them in the past. Apologize to who you feel the need to, but leave those things behind. Forgiveness is not easy, but forgiveness is something we also grant ourselves. And I just was just like, I mean, it just, the metaphor of it all, and like this is a huge turning point for them in their story. It's a huge turning point and a mission for her, because she is, as much as she's been aware of it, it's been hard for her to verbalize it, vocalize it, and do something about it.
Right.
And it just, I mean, the things about, I mean, I just have this labeled, wow, this, like, I felt that because I've heard people I care who give me counsel say things like Cassian, and I've said those things to other people, being through something that I've been through, and like, I don't know, there's just been this part really just in general hit different for me because of my own personal stuff, but I really enjoyed reading that.
Yeah, I loved that part too. I had it flagged too. It was just beautiful. My next one is on 576, and this is really, well, I'm just gonna read it because I'll give away. Heart racing, Nesta lifted the lantern in one hand and gazed at the darkness, untouched by the light from the library high above. The heart of the world, of existence, of self, the heart of the house. This, her fingers tightened on the lantern. This darkness is your heart. As if in answer, the house laid a little evergreen sprig at her feet. A winter solstice present for me. I just love this because it's kind of wrapped up the friendship between the house and Nesta, and it allowed her to see that everyone has darkness, and even the house, which she thought was this like imperfect place that she called home, it had its own darkness in its heart, and it was that room that was never lit. So I just loved that part, and it just,
and that also too, like, really is a metaphor, I think, for like, we all have a little bit of that inside of us, and I think it was showing Nesta that like I have this, so like you do too, and it's okay to still feel and deserve home and safety and security with these things. Like, that does not make us broken, that makes us just us.
Yes, I agree.
Am I next?
Yes.
So she was about to push Cassian away, and I was very upset with her. But then they really have a come to moment. And she wrote, after my father died, after I failed in so many ways, denying myself of you, she sobbed, it was my punishment. Don't you understand that? She could barely see him through her tears. From the moment I met you, I wanted you more than reason. From the moment I saw you in my house, you were all I could think about, and it terrified me. No one had ever held such power over me, and I'm still terrified that if I let myself have you, it will be taken away. Someone will take it away, and if you're dead, she buried her face in her hands. It doesn't matter, she whispered. I do not deserve you, and I never ever will. Utter silence filled the room, such silence that she wondered if he'd left, and lowered her hands to see if he was still there. And Cassian stood before her, tears streaming down his beautiful, perfect face. There are a lot of things when you've gone through a traumatic experience that you feel like it won't stay. Like, good things aren't meant to last. I'm meant to have this like doomed path, or like you know, it's hard to acknowledge that you do deserve it, but not even that, but that the universe thinks that you deserve it and won't just rip it away from you. And this moment really got me because I have literally felt like Nesta in that moment when I've cared for someone since my spouse passed away, and I've cared for my friends and I've cared for my family, and there's just this different distrust you have. You become jaded in a way, and you can work through that, and I learned to live with that. But in this moment, I really understood what she was saying. Like, I don't know if I can let myself fully have this, because if I lose it again, I don't know if I can take it.
Right.
And doesn't this person deserve so much more goodness than that? Like, for me to live in my head like that. And that takes a lot of work. And I loved that I saw Nesta work through that. I've worked through that personally. So, like, I just absolutely loved that. Like, I just wrote fear of loss. Like nothing. This is one of the top things that I think have resonated for me in these books, was this moment here, because like it's so real, and Sarah J Maas got that so right.
Yeah.
In this moment, and it was just really deep. So I appreciated that very much.
I love that. My next one's on. Oh, I think your next one, 631.
I had a lot more in here than I thought. Oh, yeah, this is good. So, on a happier note, as we progressed in this book, and this shows the full circle moment, Nesta smiled in greeting and left them blinking, but she forgot them within a moment because the stars, when she's experiencing starfall. And she goes, she hadn't realized that such beauty existed in the world, that she might feel so full from wonder it could hurt, like her body couldn't contain all of it. And she didn't know why she cried then, but the tears began rolling down her face. The world was beautiful, and she was so grateful to be in it, to be alive, to be here, to see this. She stuck out a hand over the railing, grazing a star as it shot past, and her fingers came away glowing with blue and green dust. She laughed, a sound of pure joy, and she cried more because the joy was a miracle. I loved that because it just encapsulated the opposite of what I just said, which was, even with pain, the world can be so beautiful.
Right.
And good can be so ever present in your life. And that even if you endure something unimaginable, you can, if you look hard enough, inward first, but then absorb what's going on around you, that like good can happen. And like that is such a beautiful thing to realize as a survivor of something.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to one of Cassian and Nesta's conversations prior, where he was saying, you know, there is a lot of darkness, but the darkness allows the light to just be so much brighter.
That actually is like on the next page. It's like I just flipped it on accident. It says, and I think that was one of my hits different. It says, the struggle with the darkness is worth it just to see such things.
Yeah, that was that was like my next quote, and it was Amren saying that to Nesta. Yeah,
I want you to read that full part, because I just took an abridged part, but that's so good,
No,
and it's worth it.
Okay. Nesta considered the darkness in the pit of the library. It's the heart of the house. Amren nodded. And where is it now? It hasn't made an appearance in weeks, but it's still there. I think it's just being managed. Maybe the house's knowledge that I'm aware of it and didn't judge it makes it easier to keep in check. Amren put a hand above Nesta's heart. That's the key to it, isn't it? To know the darkness will always remain, but how you choose to face it, handle it, that's the important part. Not let it consume. To focus upon the good things will fill you with wonder. She gestured to the stars zooming past. The struggle with that darkness is worth it, just to see such things. I just I love, there was so much, it was almost kind of all, it wasn't repetitive, but it all kind of like how we talk about this continuous sphere. A lot of these quotes I think that we're reading, they kind of all are within the same sphere.
Yeah, and I mean, throughout the entire series, like this is not the first time you and I have hit It's different with things like this. All right, you get to keep going with our hits different. I mean, yeah, I love, and you know what? I think that makes this such a good series too. While you flip for your next one, I just want to say this, that the things that are resonating to us as readers haven't, as we've gone from book to book, it hasn't changed that much.
Yes.
So clearly these were written in a way that they're meant for people to like really pull some really common main ideas and key things from. Which like I absolutely love. I absolutely love that. It's like the cause and like the message she's trying to send has not been abandoned from book to book. It's actually ignited more because it's clearly an across the board with all characters thing.
I agree.
I think that's fantastic.
So, I'm not sure if I can exactly pronounce this, but it's on 709 and it's Ataraxia. She named the magic sword inner peace. And I just love this because, again, it's just kind of full circle moment. We've seen Nessa struggle since the very first book. We've seen her, you know, face the cauldron. We've just seen her battle all these things. And internally, we always knew she was struggling, but she didn't open up to face those challenges. And now it's like she herself is
Yes.
acknowledging that she has inner peace.
Yes.
And I think that another thing is like inner peace is like the greatest weapon of all.
Yeah.
This is very like symbolic of that because
Yes.
she's naming her greatest weapon inner
Yes.
peace, a word that means
Isn't
that.
it fascinating that she had that picked out before we knew that she felt that way about herself?
Yes.
And I think that like her keeping that close to the chest, like close to the like her heart and her own knowledge, she didn't share what that meant with other people. Someone laughed at her about it. So someone clearly knew down the line. They're like, "Oh, you named it that."
Yes.
Not anyone in the inner circle, but then for us in the reader actually found out what that meant after the fact, after we had her character arc come full circle. Thought that was like that really packed a punch. That was like, wow, like that's stunning. Stunning.
Yeah, that was amazing.
We have one of us the same one next.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Bryn, because I think it might be the same one.
Wow. And wow, I did a connection and a quote tab. Okay. So this is Nesta saving Feyre's life.
Yeah. That was
with all of her trove objects.
Yeah.
Which we haven't really talked about the trove objects, but like, wow, the fact all of those things together and how they work just for her, and she's the only one to yield such power, like that just like was like crazy. The premise of this book with that, but the quote says, I feel nothing, Nesta said silently. Only the sight of Feyre on death's threshold kept her from forgetting why she was here, what she needed to do. Is that not what you wanted, to feel nothing? I thought that was what I wanted. Nesta surveyed the people around her, her sisters, Cassian, who had been willing to plunge a dagger into his heart rather than harm her, but no longer. When the female voice didn't press her, Nesta went on. I want to feel everything. I want to embrace it with my whole heart. Even the things that hurt and haunt you? Only curiosity laced the question. Nesta allowed herself a breath to ponder it, stilling her mind once more. We need those things in order to appreciate the good. Some days might be more difficult than others, but I want to experience all of it, live through all of it, with them. The wise voice, voice whispered. So live, Nesta Archeron. Nesta needed nothing more as she took her sister's limp hand and knelt upon the floor. She set the harp down beside her, its silent note still reverberating, holding time firm in its grasp.
That was just amazing. And that's again like it just shows like she has inner peace. She's recognizing that she wants the good and the bad. She wants to feel. She doesn't want to be so, dystopia.
She wants to love, be loved.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I honestly feel like, and I know that we said that maybe this wasn't our favorite book, but those last 200 pages, those might have been my favorite 200 pages of the series. I know it's kind of like, it's
that
a little
makes
bit,
perfect sense to
you know
me.
what I mean? It's a little bit of a oxymoron, but it's like,
I thoroughly enjoyed reading the girls go through the blood right too.
Yes, me too.
Like,
yeah.
there was just so much that happened. Again, we're not in the business of summarizing this whole book or we'd be here for hours, but like we pick the parts of these things that meant the most to us.
Yes.
And these last 200 pages packed the punch like the other ones haven't. It wasn't just conflict. Yeah. It was someone learning themselves.
Yes.
And that is deep. And a lot of that stuff hit different. And we were joking before we started recording that like most of our annotations, like if you look, they're at the end.
And all of mine, literally all of mine in the end, these gray tabs are my hit different tabs. I had to actually like really vet what I was going to talk about in the episode or else we'd be here literally for hours because there were so many things in the last 200 pages that just hit different.
Yeah.
So many messages. that came to life, and it was beautiful. So I will say, like, even though this was not maybe my favorite ACOTAR book, those 200 pages were the most enjoyable for me. Um, yeah. So I guess leading into that, Brenna, what is your recommendation rating? What's your overall drinkability for this book? It's challenging because it's like we don't want to base it fully on the 200 pages because it's like a 100-page book, but it's also like those just hit a home run for me.
Yeah. I'm starting to change my mind.
I know because I know.
Because initially, so I had ACOFAS, Frost and Starlight, at a 3.5, which was my lower-ish rating. And then we did readjust. And now I'm like, did I like this one more? Because of those impactful pages.
Yeah. And also the thing is, like, Frost and Starlight, wasn't it like 150 pages?
Yeah.
So I feel like if you want to get real technical, you could compare those.
Oh yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? Like the length. I mean, if A Court of Frost and Starlight was 800 pages, you wouldn't like it as much. You would like this one. That's where I'm like kind of.
I think going through our hits different, and the things that Nesta experienced, I'm gonna still stay with a 3.5, which would technically tie my rating with ACOFAS, book 4. Because book 4 also had that really impactful moment that I can never shake with the Weaver at the so
very true.
So in terms of personal connection, I'm going to keep this one at a 3.5, even though I disagreed. I disagreed with, not disagreed, but I didn't love the point of view.
Yeah.
And I did not love how hot and heavy it was.
Yeah.
It's just not my vibe.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I'm gonna go with a 3.52. Because I want to give this one a 4. I do, just because of those last 200 pages. But I gave ACOMAF a 4, and it doesn't line up with ACOMAF for me. I think that's like part of the struggle with rating these kind of as we go, because it's like it's a series, so it's like hard to compare them to others. But a way that we can kind of combat that all is we can do our pyramid ranking, and we'll say that on our social medias, where we'll rank them top to bottom, all of our favorites, because the numerical ratings, they get a little sticky sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard, and
especially in a series. So
like everyone always says, don't rate things 1 through 10. That's too much, and 1 through 5. But so like 1 through 5 is more concise, but it's hard because there are so many things that I consider when I'm rating a book that maybe other people. It's subjective, right? Like you might not rate a book on the same criteria that I do.
Exactly, like it's very subjective.
I have one last question to wrap up ACOTAR, and I just thought of it. But this is my teacher brain. What lesson could we learn from Nesta Archeron?
I think it's like the journey never ends. Like, she was an adult at this time, but she still had so much growing to do. And I think that goes for anyone. Like, the battles of life will really throw some punches at you, and you'll think that you're doing all right. You'll think that you got everything figured out, but then you don't. So I think like it's an ever going journey, personal growth, determination, resilience, mental health. It's all a journey. It's not a one-stop shop. And it comes from within. You got to like figure out within that you need to build on that. No one else can tell you. Things can happen to you, and then you still might not realize it. It's got to come from within. I think that's my biggest takeaway. Yeah. That's what Nesta taught me. How about you, Brent?
I'm gonna take a two-way street with mine. I agree with you, and I'll add something a different little bit of a take. Is that everybody processes things, positive or negative, in their own way. But that I think it's important to have grace with people. Yeah. She didn't always have it for herself, and sometimes the people around her didn't always have it for her. But I also think that an important lesson and something I've learned is that my pain or your pain, her pain, does not give you the excuse to treat people the way that to treat people negatively.
Yeah.
Your actions, our grandfather told me once, I'm sure you've heard him say this, and I think about this, you can never take back a spoken word once it's out into the world. Your words are concrete, and you don't think that they are, but they are. people will always remember how you made them feel.
Mm-hmm.
And Nesta had to learn. Does that mean that they can't be forgiven? Absolutely not, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Nesta had to learn that just because she had pain, that didn't mean that other people around her didn't.
Right.
And although it's hard sometimes to recognize through your own pain and grief that other people are suffering, you do, like you said, have to find it within yourself in the journey to dig deep.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so glad to see such a complex and at times infuriating character be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm going to add to your sentence. Yes, it is a journey. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. We trip, we stumble, we fall. But I think a common thread in all of this book, all of this series, was that you can overcome.
Yeah.
And is this done in far-fetched fantasy-esque ways? Absolutely. But there's a human element that I appreciated more than I had anticipated about overcoming struggle and hardship, pain, and still being hopeful and being sent the message through reading. But now, like my real life too, it's connected that there is joy and hope, and you deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
Nesta deserved that. Feyre deserved that.
Mm-hmm.
Rhysand deserved that. Tamlin deserves it.
Yeah.
And I loved that. And when I picked up the first copy of this book and decided to pitch it to you to be our first one to go on, I did not expect that journey, the journey of reading these books, to take me there. Yeah. I didn't. I thought they were fantasy, romance, romantic, and was that a part? But it was so much deeper, and that's what makes me love this series so much.
I agree.
I don't know how to patiently wait, but I will.
Yeah, we'll wait.
We have no choice.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like it's hard to like say farewell to it, but I guess this is our farewell to ACOTAR for now. I wouldn't maybe not a farewell. I guess it's like a little bit of a see you later. See ya in 2025.
Yeah. And we hope so many more of you have stuck with us by that point.
Yeah.
Because we don't plan on stopping.
No.
So read the books, catch up with us, and then we'll see you in 2025.
And in the meantime, we are heading into some, well, I don't want to say lighter reads, because I've actually heard that this next title that we're about to disclose is actually like makes people cry at the end.
Oh, man.
But I'm just saying that less of a commitment. We're just going to be doing single books, so no series for a while.
Yep.
And our next title that we will be reading, Brenna, do you want to do the honors?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, yes, sure. We will be reading, and we did not pick this book.
No, we didn't pick it. Our producer did.
Our producer picked it for us. Mr. Colby. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Yes. We know a lot of you have read this one.
Yep.
So we're ready to be the ones playing catch up and like.
Yes, we're so excited to get into some titles that, you know, because the thing about fantasy is a lot of people either it's kind of polarized, and some people haven't gotten into it, like myself before I started this series.
Yep.
With 7-Year Slip and some of these other titles that are a little bit more popular on Book Talk or the romance literary fiction world. We're super excited to engage with you guys on those. Yep. So stay tuned.
It's gonna be a really great summer.
It really is. We have so many summer reads in our lineup. You know what I think we should do, Brenna, for the next title? I think we should pitch it to our listeners. We should put it on our Instagram. Make it a little poll.
Let's do it.
Because our TBRs are so long that we have a really hard time picking.
Yeah. And we are going to be really pushing. A goal of mine for the pod over the summer is to build up that Goodreads and really, so please, like, we post our links to all of our stuff when we post our episodes. So follow us on social media, check us out on Goodreads, interact with us. We put polls up, and we are on Instagram, and we really do want, it's summer reading time, guys and gals and everyone else. So like, let's do it.
Yeah. We're so excited. We can't wait to jump into it.
All right,
guys.
ACOTAR. Goodbye for now.
Chef kiss. Goodbye.
It's been great. We love it. Thank you for tuning in. Anything else, Keek?
I don't think so. I'm going to cry about ACOTAR off camera.
I got chills just now, all right? Okay. Well,
bye, guys.
Bye.